When this woman arrived at the supermarket this morning, she consciously decided to be obnoxious. She was in a hurry, so searching for a parking space was wasted time. She ended up double parking in a disabled spot, a decision she would regret shortly after, because when she returned, she was forced to call the police. "I got an order under the name Jenkins," she said when she set foot inside, not even paying attention to the other waiting customers. As Carol waited impatiently, she heard some commotion outside. It made her even more agitated, and she urged the staff to hurry up. Why is it taking so long? When the baker finally arrived with her order, Carol left the payment on the counter without thanking or saying goodbye. She hurried back to her car but was met with a curious sight. The commotion she heard inside the bakery was a group of people standing by her spot. "What's all this?" she asked. But when the group of people scattered, Carol got the fright of a lifetime. Her car was gone. "What's going on? Where's my car?" she screamed frantically, demanding answers. Before we start, smash the like button and make sure to subscribe if you haven't, and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss any new stories. Carol paced around on the spot where her car used to be, ignoring all the stares of the people around her. Her breathing was quick and her face turned red. Well, then find out who did. She screamed at her phone. The operator asked for additional information and promised to do their best, but that wasn't enough for Carol, and she hung up with a sigh. Not convinced the police would be any help, she would have to deal with this on her own like she always had to do. Right at that moment, someone from the crowd approached. "You got what you deserve," the man said. The comment ignited something inside Carol. "What do you mean?" she snapped at him. Who was this man? And why did he say something like that? Then, a thought crossed her mind. Carol couldn't believe the man didn't want to help her. She looked around frantically, hoping someone else could help her in the right direction. But as desperate as she was, everyone ignored her. She let out a frustrated sigh. But then a voice behind her startled her. "I know where your car is." Carol turned around to see who the voice belonged to. It turned out to be a man she had never seen before. And again, her first instinct took over. "How do you know where my car is? Did you take it? Where is it?" she rambled. But unlike the shopkeeper, this man remained calm. He ignored her accusations and looked at her with a compassionate expression. "I understand what you're going through, and I just want to help you," he said, trying to calm Carol down. The man explained that cars get stolen here regularly and that he was a victim of this himself not too long ago. Her best option was to go with him, but the moment she sat in his car, it felt like she had made a mistake. Carol felt different. She wasn't in control of the situation anymore, and she was usually the one in control. She couldn't rely on her strong personality and didn't like it. To try to make herself feel better and more confident in her decision to go with this man, Carol started to ask him questions. She wanted to feel more in control, but to her surprise, the man's attitude was completely different compared to the one he had in the parking lot. They drive around the park for a while and eventually stop in front of a big building. The man exited the car and gestured for Carol to follow him. "Your car is inside," he said as he pointed to the building. "How do you know?" Carol asked, trying to maintain her tough act. But the man ignored her question again. "You should go inside and look," he urged her. The man didn't raise his voice, but his tone was very direct and commanding. Carol felt there was no other option than to listen to his instructions. She never experienced this before, so anxiously and hesitant she went inside. Her voice carried through the big room, but then another sound followed. A loud clank filled the room, and not much later the lights slowly turned on. It seemed her last-ditch effort worked. But when the entire room was lit up, Carol's eyes grew wide in surprise. She wasn't alone. Carol had thought she was alone in the room, but that was far from true. In the center of the room stood a large group of people. The old woman stared at them in confusion. What were these people doing here? Who were they? She had never seen them. This situation was getting increasingly weirder. "Where is my car?" she repeated. But nobody responded. She didn't understand any of it. All she wanted was her car back. What was the meaning of all this? The loss of control and the unknown situation was overwhelming, and Carol stepped back anxiously. "What is this? What do you want from me?" she snapped at the man. But he just looked at her, his face showing a pitiful expression. "Why did you take me here? Do you even want to help me? Do you even know where my car is?" Carol continued bombarding the man with questions. Her shrill voice echoed through the room, and when they died down, the man finally broke his silence. "So you don't recognize me at all? You have no idea who I am," he said. Carol was taken aback by these questions, and her mind started racing. Recognize him? Why would she? Carol's silence told him enough, and he walked past her toward the group of people. "You don't recognize any of these people?" he asked again, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Carol looked at the group, but she didn't know any of them. She had never seen them before, or so she thought. "And today you managed to cross the line," he continued. When he saw her double park her car on the disabled spot, It was the final straw. He couldn't let Carol continue her behavior and had to act, so he called a friend who owned a tow truck and asked him to tow her car. Carol's eyes flared up when the man spoke that sentence. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You stole my car? Give it back to me at once," she demanded, feeling like she was regaining control. But the man wasn't impressed by her sudden outburst. Instead, Carol would soon find out it was a mistake. Until this moment, the man had been patient and showed no sign of anger, but that all suddenly changed. "You can get your car back when you realize what damage you caused," he shouted while he gestured to the group of people in front of them. Carol's gaze went from the man to the group and back. "What damage?" she asked in confusion. What did this guy mean? Was he crazy? "I've never seen any of these people in my life." "What do you mean?" Carol was about to go on a tirade, but the man silenced her. "I will tell you exactly what I mean," the man said, raising his voice for the first time. The man continued explaining that Carol didn't pay attention to her surroundings, hurting others in the process. "Let me show you," he said as he walked toward the group and urged Carol to come. The man stopped beside a girl and asked if she recognized Carol. The girl nodded subtly, and the man explained that she was a shop employee. He saw her leaving the shop in tears because Carol verbally abused her for giving one less savings stamp than the old woman was owed. Carol didn't have time to respond as the man continued with the old man beside the girl. "This man hurt his knee when he suddenly had to dodge away from your car because you were driving recklessly in the parking lot," he explained while staring at Carol, who felt increasingly uncomfortable. The memories played inside her head, but they weren't from her perspective, they were from other people's perspective. She felt a jab of pain in her knee. She felt sad and fought her tears. Carol was feeling what the people felt when they looked at her. She felt shame and guilt. What was happening? Carol wasn't unfamiliar with shame or guilt, but she would normally ignore these feelings and push them aside, just like she would do with people. But not this time. Seeing the faces of the people she hurt while listening to their stories made it impossible to ignore. And then Carol lost total control. She did her best to fight the tears, but suddenly her vision became blurry, and the tears streamed down her face. It was something she never experienced before, and she broke down right in front of people. Carol took some time to straighten her thoughts, after which she took a deep breath and mustered all her courage. What followed was a heartfelt apology. She explained that this situation had opened her eyes and promised to improve her behavior. "I hope you can all forgive me," she finished. The group quickly forgave her as they realized Carol was telling the truth and the parking lot attendant's plan had worked. In the end, the man gave Carol back her car so she could return to her daughter's birthday. However, Carol got the greatest gift of all, the perspective to be a better person.